I always want to try new things. I always want to get outside my comfort zone. I always want to learn more about the places that I visit, about the people in those places. And that means saying yes when an opportunity is presented. It's not always comfortable though, and saying yes has levels to it. And one time you say yes, it's hard, and then the next time it's going to be even harder. And it's especially hard when you say yes to meeting a new friend in a foreign country where you don't speak the language. Now, I speak a little more Spanish than I did when I got here, and I've been taking classes every day, talking with strangers, but those strangers were never really my friends. My brother-in-law, David, sent me a contact that he has here in Bolivia, very obscure. It's like his ex-boss's colleague, subordinate's friend living in Sucre. Okay. The point is, it's just not easy to reach out to those people, you know? Like, you have this contact, and you don't really know them that well, but this time, my saying yes was, all right, let me try the contact. He ended up bringing the whole family of who he's staying with and then invited us to explore the city past lunch, too. So he took us to the church, San Miguel, just like 2 blocks from the plaza where we had lunch, and that's when I took my phone out and started recording. He unlocked the doors to the church, which he had the keys to, and showed us what it was like when no one else was inside. Took some photos there, sat down at a cafe way up in the bell tower, which I didn't even know existed, but churches down here do that. They rent out the bell tower for cafes because they're not getting as many donations as they used to. Anyway, I saw my first artificial intelligence image inside of a church, which is something I never thought that I would see. Jose called someone else, Marco, who drives a car like he has all his affairs in order and doesn't really care what happens in traffic. Anyway, he drove us to El Cementerio, which is a famous cemetery here in Bolivia. It was on our radar, but it just wasn't something that we wanted to go see. I mean, it's a cemetery. And I was wrong about that. It's very beautiful. You know, there's all kinds of different sections of the graves, and there's a science to how they're laid out. There's these big, beautiful tombs that the aristocrats bury their dead in, and the founders of the city are there, ex-presidents, all this stuff. You know, it's not just in Bolivia, but in other places where people build an enormous memorial to someone because it makes them seem a little less dead. You know, maybe not something I agree with, but definitely something I'd like to look at and explore and learn a little bit more about Bolivia. We're learning interesting phrases like communists, like Pepsi more. A couple blocks away, the 4 of us went to San Felipe, the church that has the 2 massive white towers on it and is kind of a landmark right down in the city center. We saw the church proper, the crypt underneath, the roof above. There's not a lot of buildings here that are, you know, modernly built, many stories high. So once you get on a rooftop, you can see most of the city from there and the rolling hills up to the edge of it and the mountains beyond. The last stop of the day was a mirador, a place where we could drink coffee and look out at the city, not on a rooftop, but from a high point where, again, you could see the sprawling city, the mountains, all that. Said we should come back and try out the best of the local meat at a restaurant the next evening. I didn't know that it was Jose's birthday party, and I also didn't know that he'd have like about 20 people seated at this long table. And when we got there, it was like, oh, well, it's definitely not just the 3 of us, just the 4 of us, everybody. And we sang happy birthday to him. We ate this 3-course meal, this beautifully done steak that was at a place, you know, not on Google Maps, not something you can easily find like many places down here. You know, they just don't have a website. Everyone knows about this good place to get meat, and if you know a local, then you know where the place is because they tell you. But if not, you're just going to the places that you already know or the places you walk past. Anyway, we shared this loud cab. I mean, something was wrong with the wheel. The wheel was broken, and it was like the whole way we were going down to the center of the city. But we shared the cab with Julia. She's Jose's friend too. She was at the birthday party, and she was going in the same direction in the cab, so it just made sense to share it with her. She told me that she had a good friend that was a dentist, and if I ever wanted to go to the dentist while I was in Bolivia, to let her know. Again, I want to try new things, and dental care is a lot cheaper here than it is in my home country, so I said, yeah, let's make the appointment. We set the appointment for 2-3 days later, something like that. And she said, well, in the meantime, let's meet up and I can show you even more of the city. Saying yes this time was actually making my own friend, not from a contact, someone to practice Spanish with who doesn't really speak my language, and having my own personal guide in a city where I'm a total foreigner, a total stranger, and I don't really know my way around. Daria and I met her, and we walked down to the bus stop with her 2 sons, and she took us to Castillo de Glorieta. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but the property really is beautiful. It's the last stop on the bus at the very edge of the city, and some of the members of the founding family of the city used to live there. Their daughter was actually called a princess and lived in this tower that looks like something straight out of Europe or straight out of some princess movie. The inside of the property was this beautiful, beautiful architecture, palatial, straight out of Europe, and had touches from many different countries in Europe. Obviously Spain, which is where the family came from. But then in the center, there was this 40-meter tower that looked like the same roof they have on the Kremlin, and the clock tower is an exact replica of Big Ben. It would be a great property for a hotel. I imagine they book the place out every night, but nobody lives there, nobody stays there. And most of the fun wasn't in just looking at the property, but getting to know this new family, getting to know our new friend, Julia, practice Spanish, of course, which is the theme I keep coming back to, and saying yes to whatever's offered next. She said, do you want to go grab something to eat? And I'm like, yeah. So I got to eat a sandwich that was as long as my arm and set plans to meet her for the dentist appointment on the following day. It was great to save about 90% of what I would usually pay to get my teeth examined, no cavities, thank God, and cleaned as well. Mind you, this whole chain of events started when my brother-in-law texted me, oh, I know a guy in Sucre, here's his number, and then ended with me sitting in a dental chair getting my teeth cleaned. And it just came from me saying yes, yes, yes along every step of the way to whatever was offered to me, right? But by then, I was pretty close with these guys. I liked them, especially their son, Andres, who's about 15 years old, and he wants to be a pilot, but he's never actually flown anything. And I said, hey, get Andres to meet us at the park after the dentist appointment. I'm going to show him how to fly a drone. Now, it's nothing phenomenal. I mean, it's something you can pick up at the store in the United States, or you probably have a buddy or someone who owns a drone. But here in Bolivia, it's an enormous cost to import these things, and they're really not that common. They do sell drones here, but they're just absolute junk. They're toys. They don't have serious cameras on them. And the one that I have is basic for what we have in the United States, but it has a lot of the features that you just can't get down here. And doing stuff like that for someone else is the least that I can do. These guys took me all over the city, showed me all their cool spots. I mean, this is their city, and they're showing it to me on their own time. And, all I'm offering is like, hey, do you want to play with my toy? It seemed like a massive, massive discrepancy in the trade-off. But, he was just so happy to be flying that thing that I really didn't mind showing it to him. She invited Dottie and I to come with her family to Saturday night church. And, of course, I said yes to that as well. I mean, by this point, I was just saying yes to everything. And I'm probably going to meet up with her in the future, too. I mean, I'm in the city for a couple more days. I have her number. She's not that far away, and I love hanging out with her kids. After church, we went to Rosita's, a chicken place. I just can't stress enough how extremely grateful I was to get out of my comfort zone, meet these wonderful new people, and make some friends in a foreign country, which is a first for me and was only possible because I said yes, yes, yes to everything along the way. The experiences that I had in the city, seeing all these churches, going under the crypt, up on the roof, even going out to eat, seeing the castle, getting my teeth cleaned, all this stuff, it wasn't anything that I thought I'd be doing when I came to Sucre. It's just, all right, here to explore the city, learn Spanish, move on to the next place. And even though I like having these new experiences, it's always extremely difficult to say yes to the new thing. This time the new thing was making friends in a foreign country and speaking their language instead of mine, and I'm just so glad that I did. There's levels to this, and right now I'm at the level where I move to a foreign country and start making a life there and meeting new people and learning the language. And I'm not saying that you're at that level or that you need to be at that level, but at least don't tell yourself that you're not the kind of person who can be. You just have to say yes to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing after that. And eventually you're going to say yes and realize that you are the kind of person who can do those things. Certainly that's what I've been realizing here.